The ambassador was nice enough to explain that we've been doing this for 12 years, but that's privately. I've had the pleasure to work for the government a few more years before that. So what we wanted to introduce today is something that's really not known, or at least processed in the African countries, is something called an EB-5 visa. And EB-5 visa has been available for maybe at least 15 years, and it's commonly done in China, Russia, Iran, and South Korea. Commonly, when they crunch the numbers each year, those are the ones who do it most of the time. No one knows exact reasons why it hasn't caught on, but those are well-off countries, and there's many well-off countries in Africa, and it's a direct route for permanent residency. A lot of people have heard probably various stories about it. In fact, there is some issues with some agencies in China trying to create regional centers. Give us $500,000 and we'll get something done for you. However, it is a USCIS program, and it is available, and there are very reputable regional centers. There's actually one that has 100% approval rate in all visas they've ever processed. I'm going to briefly explain the criteria, and you might get this at home and people might ask you questions. The EB-5 program first started out with a $1 million investment, and it had to create 10 new jobs. And that's very difficult. Actually, the $1 million investment is not that difficult. It's creating 10 new jobs. And it can't be 10, you can't take over a business that has 10 jobs and invest $1 million in this. You have to create 10 new jobs. And that was very difficult for the program. So USCIS developed another option, and that option is called a regional center. And it's an area, and a private company will request for regional center status. If they're granted regional center status, they only need to provide a $500,000 or $500,000 investment, which provides an automatic green card for any applicant, and there's no restrictions. It doesn't matter which country you're involved with. The regional center is the criteria that the applicant doesn't have to worry about. The regional center needs to find a TEA, targeted employment area, where the unemployment is 150% higher than the national average. With that, they also can then use 10 indirect jobs, and they create, I guess, formats or different types of investment projects in order for people to invest in. And it's become quite competitive, because I believe Canada is now at 800,000 Canadian dollars, and that is for an automatic green card. In the U.S., there's some programs where you put in 500,000, but you get the 500,000 return. Once again, you have to look at the specific regional center's background. The advantages are that a lot of the countries in Russia and China and Iran have for well-off families who maybe get admitted to Columbia or a high-end school in the United States, they have to pay student fees. Student fees could run as high as $30,000, $40,000 for an F1 visa, international visa. Some of these well-off families are simply choosing to go the other route, have their daughter or son come in as a permanent resident, filing through the regional program. They put $500,000 into the regional program, and after 4.5 years, the person doesn't have to pay any international fees, comes out actually as a U.S. citizen. So they can enter school at 18 as a permanent resident, and they go to school. School usually takes 4 years, and 9 months from that date, they file for citizenship. So even with we've had some Bangladesh clients, they have to come home and they have to run the big business in Bangladesh, but they might never even come to the United States again. So the child goes to Columbia, the child goes to NYU, comes out as a U.S. citizen, never returns back to the United States, and then has U.S. citizen children in Bangladesh. So there's a lot of advantages. Unfortunately, when a lot of students leave the U.S., they have no status to get back. They can't get a job with a hedge fund here in the United States unless they go through the burdensome process of having an H-1B visa. There's a lot of difficulties with H-1B visas. in the requirement that they're running out, and it gives them a complete flexibility to work in the U.S. or in Europe with their permanent residency application. So when we sit down and talk to people, they always talk about, I have a regional center plan. In other words, I want to do my own regional center, and that's extremely difficult. And for our clients, we simply refer to them to the one regional center that has 100% success rate, has worked with the U.S. government for over 15 years, and that's the goal you want. The problem with some of those regional centers is the return of their money, the $500,000 that they invest, is usually very low, 1 or 2% over the 5 years. So 1% per year is quite low. However, they have a strong, extremely strong chance of getting their money returned to them based on the track record. There's a lot of regional centers that say that you'll make 10% or 15% on your money on this new car project in Alabama, or it could be a ski lodge, whatever the scenario is, but that is a risk, and a lot of our clients at least want to avoid the risk. So if anybody ever has any more information on, or wants more information on an EB-5 investor visa, we can give more and more detail on it. The key with EB-5s is the more sophisticated the investor is, the immigrant, the more likely they'll actually do it. A lot of these regional centers are joining the U.S. government and investment in getting rid of asbestos and fixing up military bases, so most of their documents are public anyways. So the documents are all public, the track record is very, very obvious, and they would have, the actual people would have to join a limited partnership to be part of that project. So the sophisticated investors, our experience actually, are the ones that are more likely to do it than not.